we must focus on the most important thing in the world, and that is why you're a piece of garbage if you don't support transgender and drag queen Olympic ceremonies. Now, you could say you're focusing on one part. You could say, well, what about Selma Hayek and Snoop Dogg? They held the Olympic flame. What about the drag queen that carried the flame to Paris? You could say, why aren't you focusing on those things? Well, if we were focusing on those things, then we would be forgetting the most important part about the Olympics, and that's inclusivity. Gone are the days where you can just be bigoted and let men weightlift against other men. You have to let them weightlift against women. So we should be not surprised at all by the Olympics not only wanting to have men compete against women in their chosen category, except for swimming. I think it depends on the sport. But why stop there? Why not include it all in the opening ceremonies? Why not have a presentation that's inclusive? And not only must it be inclusive, we must replace all normal people with fat guys in drag and cross-dressers and morbidly obese women. That is what the future is if you're in France. Now, the mayor of Paris, and we'll bring this up after, but the mayor of Paris was all for this. She thought it was very important to have drag queens be front and center in the Olympics. And isn't that what we all think of when we think about peak athletes every 4 years competing against each other and against other nations representing their own nation? We think of a man in stockings who may or may not have had a testicle falling out. That's what we think of. We think of, imitating the Bible, imitating, pageant women. And we really think about grown men dressed as women dancing with children. That's what I think when I think of the Olympics. I don't know about you guys. Let me know if that's the case for you as well. Now, this is being banned all across the world. And what I mean by banned is they're copyright striking it. They took it down. They don't want people to copy it from YouTube. That's the obvious reason. But this is just a snippet of the opening ceremony, which maybe if you're rewatching this will be cut out because of the Olympic Committee, that they don't want people to steal this footage, even though they put it up. Maybe they're having some remorse about it. So we're looking for a normal person on screen at all. We have a child for some reason, because it has to be a little bit creepy. I don't know if the person in the middle is a woman or a man. The rest of them are certainly men. We can pause there. Man, 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 child, man, man, man. And for audio listeners, these are all men dressed as women, by the way. And then in the middle, we have a morbidly obese woman. I'm going to guess at least 300 cheeseburgers she weighs. At least. Don't ask me what the cheeseburger weight is. But this is just one of the many things that people saw. And they were imitating the Last Supper. So the Olympic Committee and the person they hired to do this presentation, they don't, the same thing that happens with Saturday Night Live, they don't just say, hey, do this thing that we don't agree with and put it up for all the world to see. This had rehearsals, this had script writing. When Disney had John Cena walk out naked at was it the Oscars or something, but he was actually covered where it counted, and they had stuff glued to him and taped to him so it doesn't fall. These risque moments don't exactly just pop up out of nowhere. So France is just like, we need something that's going to really shock the world. And, an interesting place the Olympics would be for that. But they decide on 36 drag queens, choreographed drag queen dances, choreographed naked guy dances with children. Really just a lot of choreography with men who want to be dressed as women and have sex with other men. And there's nothing wrong with that per se. There's nothing wrong with that per se. I'm just missing the connection to sport. I miss. Are there drag queens in the volleyball competition this year that we don't know about? Are there adult men pretending to be 14-year-old gymnasts competing for China? I mean, why aren't we doing this, China? Why aren't we sending out our Chinese super soldiers, but keeping them short enough and female looking enough to compete in gymnastics? If this is the precedent that's being set, maybe it won't be China. Maybe it'll be somebody who's less morally stringent than China. But maybe the UK and France need to just start throwing out, this is my team. Don't worry about their mustaches. These are 14-year-old gymnasts. Because China has been, accused, or not even accused. They've been suspended, fined, whatever. They've been punished before for having underage gymnasts at the Olympics. So you would say that they were not allowed to lie. They were punished for lying. You can't lie about your athletes' ages. But I would dare anyone to say, hey, you're not a woman. Hey, you're not 16. What if a power lifter... No, that's not advantageous enough. We'll stick with gymnasts. What if a 25-year-old man who's just, a hardened gymnast, gold medal gymnast, says, hey, if I compete in the women's category, I can win 6 medals instead of 1. What the advantage of him being 14, I'm not sure about yet. I'll get to that, I'm sure. But what's to stop him from saying that? I guess we're already there. But if it's in a category where something's like, the under-19 soccer team, which is typically how they do it for Olympics, what's to stop somebody from just saying, I'm an 18-year-old girl. I get to play on this team. Well, how far can we say, how far is it until it's not inclusive to disagree with somebody? That's what I'm truly asking. If you say, no, you're not a 17-year-old girl, can you now say, prove that to me? Or is that mean? That's where we're going. Now, I want to clear up one of the controversies that people are talking about at the Olympics, and that's this guy who may or may not have had his testicle hanging out, and that's what people are saying. And when you look at the tweet and you see the arrow pointed at this guy, and it's wild that we have to pick what's on screen to talk about, because this is a fat naked guy on top of a bunch of fake food and flowers, I believe. But at first glance, YouTube, it does appear to be a male testicle, but it is not. I implore you, the rest of the internet, to zoom in, and we're going to try to do that for you here, and you will see the explanation, and we can't for some reason. Maybe we can do it on the regular page. There we go. It is actually just a rip in his stockings. So this is not actually just a man with a testicle hanging out. This is just a man whose pantyhose is ripped on live TV, and he's just partying. He's got makeup down here to his neck where he stopped for some reason, or his tan just stopped at that part of his neck. Unknown if it's makeup or bad tanning, we're not sure. But this is, in fact, not nudity, YouTube. This is not worthy of striking my channel for. This is actually just a rip in the man's pantyhose that appears to be a testicle but is not. And then we can, if we wanted to, we could talk about the guy on the right who's actually a naked guy painted blue. You can see his nipple right there. So that's what we're dealing with the Olympics. And people started circulating pictures of Trump holding the Olympic torch. I thought that was kind of funny. You got a bunch of pictures. This was Athens, Greece, I think, 2004. Trump's looking awfully youthful here. So that's a little bit of the difference. And I wanted to bring up, if I can find it for you, which I can. I am confident that I can. What the Paris mayor said about all of this when they were having a drag queen escort the Olympic flame to Paris. So here's an article I wrote about a drag queen, Snoop Dogg, and Selma Hayek all being torchbearers for the Olympics. A strange combination, you might say. Snoop Dogg didn't even smoke out of the Olympic flame, which you kind of expect him to. I don't know why he wouldn't. And they all had partners who ran with them. I don't know who Patrick Brule is, a singer. I'm not sure why they're there. French soccer trainer. Okay, I guess that helps. Snoop Dogg was with what I'm guessing is a man, and then another rapper. But they chose a 33-year-old French guy named Arthur Reynaud, who goes by Minima Guest. Sounds German. The performer was chosen by the city to bring the Olympic flame to the capital, and despite backlash, Paris' socialist mayor defended the decision. I reaffirm my full support for her. Note her. And Hidalgo, a member of the Socialist Party, said, and that's not a lie. That's not a joke. The mayor of France is a socialist. We'll bring her up in a second. And we'll talk about how lovely that is. She says, I'll say it again. I am proud, and yes, Paris is proud, that a drag queen will carry the torch in the values of peace and humanity. Who else could we find to do that? One might ask. There's nobody we can think of better than a guy dressing as a woman to promote peace and humanity. He's not an athlete. He's not a diplomat. He's not a humanitarian. Doesn't have a Nobel Peace Prize. But the guy dressed as the woman, which we will also bring up here, is the one that, affirms these values. It is unclear whether Reynaud actually believes he is a woman, as a plethora of photos exist of him appearing as a man while not in costume. However, the mayor referred to him as her. The city claimed the man had been a victim of homophobic and transphobic insults, which you obviously can't have. You can't have... you can't be doing super weird things and having people have a problem with that. If I say hire a clown for my birthday and you bring me a naked guy, that's fine. That would be homophobic of you to say this isn't appropriate for a bat mitzvah. That wouldn't be right for you to complain that, you got a naked man in front of a bunch of people. That wouldn't be right of you to complain about. So it's not right if you have a drag queen for some reason, having one of the most prestigious honors in the country, which happens. How often does the same city get the Olympics? Every 30 years at least, maybe, if they're lucky to have it more than once. Paris, I don't know when the last time they had it is. But you get this honor, and so what if we put a drag queen there? You can't have a problem with that. That would be rude. Consider a full BDSM thing happening there. And the idea that you shouldn't have a problem with that. It's very strange to me. They claimed the man had been a victim of homophobic and transphobic insults. Instead, the city would help launch a legal campaign on his behalf, by the way, although the legal grounds of such a lawsuit are unclear. European Parliament member Marion Maréchal reportedly said the drag queen has taken part in particularly vulgar and hypersexualized performances. Now, if you remember a while ago, France and Germany, their leftists, were very taken aback because right-wing parties had been voted a lot into European Parliament. Now, France still voted in some hyper-leftists for their leadership. So, I don't know what to tell you about that one. I don't think that is a good way of representing France to the world, she said. Maréchal is an independent member of the European Conservatives and Reformists. The drag queen, however, said, one of the messages I want to carry is the pride of my community, because 10 years ago having a drag queen carry the torch would have been unimaginable. This would be the same thing when, and let's say, Budapest 2036 Olympic Games, we're going to have probably a polygamist group of people who have married a series of farm animals carry out the first Olympic flame. 10 years ago, I would have never thought we would see a minotaur or a centaur who's in love with a princess carrying out the Olympic flame. And I think that it's just time. It's time that we brought more inclusivity to the Olympic Games. And what I noticed before I wrote this article is they were already, this is something I wrote about previously, they were already reaching out to celebrities because they knew the viewership was going to be low. NBC was doing all this stuff to try to make sure they got higher viewership this year. Kelly Clarkson, Jimmy Fallon, Peyton Manning, Snoop Dogg, all these people they hired. And they even said, we need to put heart rate monitors on a bunch of the parents who will be watching their children compete to see how much they freak out, right? So this is one of their many ideas. They're also doing streaming with Alex Cooper, who's one of the Call Her Daddy former podcast girls, or maybe she still is. I have no idea. But that's what they're doing there. I want to show you, this is the drag queen in all his glory regularly. So I don't know why they're calling him a he, or a she, sorry. He looks like a regular gay dude when he's not dressed up. Maybe he's got a few satanic tattoos. We don't know. We don't know what's in this bag that looks like it's got like piranha plant teeth. Nothing like posing for Getty Images photos in front of your fridge. That's just, that's a winning photo. Pulitzer Prize right there. I wanted to bring up the mayor of Paris, Anna Maria Hidalgo Alou. For some reason, she goes by Anne. She's how old? A 65-year-old socialist. Aren't those the best socialists? You don't even have the excuse of being a starry-eyed teenager or 21-year-old Yale student with a Hillary Clinton poster in her dorm room preaching about NGOs. You have a 65-year-old Spanish-French mayor who's a woman who's a member of the Socialist Party. Imagine like 200 years ago, they were just like, the mayor's going to be a socialist one day. You'd be like, that's insane. Or even after World War II, a socialist mayor, you'd be like, that's insane. I hope we actually don't get a 65-year-old female socialist as the mayor. But this is what happens in these major cities. I mean, you got Sadiq Khan in London. You've got Eric Adams. I don't even know who the mayor of Los Angeles is. You've got Chinese lady in Toronto, whose name I'm forgetting right now, but she's a socialist as well. You've got all these crazy people leading these large cities down the tube. And who votes these people in? Who votes in the wildly left-wing, old, losery lady who just wants to, pretend she's pandering to people by also funneling money elsewhere? It's voted in by the children of rich people that can afford to live there. You can't afford to live in downtown Paris. You can't afford to live in downtown Toronto or New York. Only a select amount of wealthy people can live in these places. And it's their children who are voting for these crazy left-wing mayors. They don't have to pay taxes. They don't really do anything. They probably go to NYU film school and think that just like filming a transgender person having sex is art, and they'll put it in black and white and it'll be picked up by Paramount or something like that. But these are the people that are voting these people in. What young person understands what they're doing? I'm not sure. But it's also contradictory in the same sense. There's always these complaints about the old white people. They're ruining society. And in a way, they're good complaints when they're talking about liberals. But these young people, they just say in general, it's old white people are the problem. And then they elect a 65-year-old socialist woman. I don't understand it. It's the conundrum that as long as you agree with somebody, the identity politics don't matter as much. And it's not something I understand. Here he is again, folks. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. I couldn't tell you. But I can tell you we're going to move on.
Turn it up, Jordan.